Impact 3 is the third edition of Impact. It's a professional congress, a technical one on MPAs. It's a very important congress for marine protected area managers, that is, the people who do the daily work, who are in the field. And the field may be very varied. We're talking about the sea, of course, but also places where decisions are taken in terms of financing, research as well linked to the MPAs. We're not talking about the managers only, but also the people who assist them, who help to find funding, who help with the scientific and legal matters. Impact 3 is this kind of a gathering. We've asked all the experts and specialists and professionals what they wanted to talk about. We got over 700 ideas, which we worked on in the program committee to come up with a program which would meet all these expectations. The last day we'll be going to Ajaccio. We'll have a political conference with about 200 as opposed to 1,000 participants. And we'll see how the politicians draw on the conclusions of Impact 3, draw on the technical conclusions. We hope there will be announcements made in Ajaccio in terms of major projects or MPAs which will be created, partnerships, for example, between states in terms of international MPAs. We greatly hope that the politicians will use this platform to make some wonderful announcements.
Que le temps que nous passons sous l'eau ne nous permet pas véritablement de mesurer.
I'm here to meet with colleagues from around the world to see what we can do to make more and bigger and faster MPAs around the world so we can make coverage to protect the oceans.
Protected areas in Croatia, there are quite a few, but they are mostly coastally oriented, so we do not protect the open sea. And actually my intention and my part of the work, or the work of the organization with which I'm working, is to actually start working more into the open ocean, into the open sea, where we have other species which we regularly do not consider as those in need of protection through creation of marine protected areas.
Well, I have two interests. One is how marine protected areas can integrate climate change in their resource management, and a very different area is how to effectively utilize public participatory communities, for instance, in managing resources as well, especially in low resource, low budget areas.
What I'm looking for, first and foremost, are contacts, trying to establish relationships with other people who are working in the same field, and also to try to influence decisions taken by decision makers concerning how the participative management of these parks will be handled. I want to know how other people manage their parks. What are the difficulties that they've encountered? Perhaps they're ahead of us in some fields. So exchanges with other people.
And it's surprising because there are some amazing places there that we know should be protected.
Well, the first thing is that on the map you see there is so much oceans on the planet. And yes, you can see MPAs. There is some. We know we have to do much more, but there is some. Something is happening around Australia and New Zealand, obviously. Something is happening in some parts of the world, in the Indian Ocean, in the Northeast Atlantic. So initiatives are going on, and obviously the network is growing, but there is still a lot missing, and the main question is how are we going to manage these huge MPAs?
The challenge we have is when we look at what we're protecting and where we're protecting it and how we're protecting it. If we look at what, we're protecting probably tropical things better than we're protecting things in colder waters. If we look at where we're protecting things much more inshore than offshore. So we're protected around 2.2% or something like that, but 10% of that is inshore and only 0.14% is on the high seas. And if we're looking at the type of protection we're giving, hardly any of this is fully protecting the ocean. Well, the 2.2% coverage that we have at the moment, and as I say, if you include Australia, it's up to around 2.9%, is composed, we think, of around 7,800 marine protected areas. Quite a lot, but quite a lot of them are very small. So when you look at the map, you'll only see a small number that are very large. So the challenge is how we actually develop the network. We've got what I would call the little ones and the large ones, and we need to actually make them cover much more of the ocean.
Well, Impact 3 is both the technical aspects, I think, of knowing how to develop the network, how to manage the MPAs, and it is also a political event, and I think we have to show that something is happening, but that there is still a lot to do to protect the ocean. So I think Impact 3 can promote the idea that we have to do much more creating MPAs to protect the ocean.
I think that society is now very worried about the sea. Life was born on Earth billions of years ago. Suffering predates humankind, therefore. Humankind has been around for 200,000 years and has done a lot of damage. In this space of time, humanity, which is passionately interested in the sea, fished for food in the sea, has been fascinated by the sea, has crossed the sea, learned to know the sea and fear it. Humanity has done great damage. And this deterioration has grown exponentially over the past few years. Dozens of species have disappeared owing to human activities. Landscapes have been heavily damaged by people, not for the right reasons. So it's normal that today humankind is becoming rather worried about the sea, which has always embodied some sort of redemption for humankind. Hence, it is necessary to come to terms with the ocean, become reconciled with the sea, which we must stop destroying and make better use of. It's high time for the main stakeholders in the world who have true authority in terms of the future course of events. It's important for them to sign agreements. It's by sitting down together that we shall learn to love the ocean again and protect it and save it. Christophe Lefebvre, oceankind is a core theme of Impact 3. What is it? In a nutshell, oceankind is this close link with humankind and human societies, a close link between the ocean, what happens in the ocean, and its protection. It shouldn't just be the companies that work off the sea that take an interest.
And in Japan, you have this Sato Umi notion. Could you explain us?
Sato Umi literally means community ocean. So it's a philosophy or concept that draws on the traditions of maritime communities that the Japanese archipelago has 3,000 kilometers of, that humans who manage an ocean properly will also reap the benefits of it. So it's trying to integrate traditional approaches to people's interaction with the ocean into modern, contemporary policy. One of the best examples is with seagrass, looking at some of the coastal communities where they noticed that their stocks were depleting. And when they looked at what needed to be done, they think of the coastal area as their garden. It's an extension of the land, and that in order to have a healthy garden, you must manage it properly. And so they started replanting the seagrass and then transplanting it so that they could ensure that the spawning grounds would be healthy, and that would contribute to stock replenishment.
I think that the marine protected areas are a means of ensuring that the inhabitants of the earth take an interest in the sea, discover the sea through these protected areas, which can welcome people, not necessarily with a view to tourist activities, but to teach people about the sea. These marine protected areas offer all these services. Ocean kind, because the ocean is a common good, means that we must share the ocean. We shouldn't share it out, we should share it. Ocean kind means having a common view, sharing together all the services rendered by the ocean. These services indeed should not just benefit a chosen few. The marine protected areas are designed to involve the whole of civil society, which should take an interest in the ocean.
The Calanque National Park was founded in 2012. After more than 14 years of work, we had to think about how we were going to manage the biodiversity on this territory, which is both terrestrial and marine. It's true, this national park is rather unusual. It's the first peri-urban terrestrial and maritime park in France. It's situated, of course, very close to Marseille and to the conurbation, and that means that there's a very strong pressure from urban development, tourism, and from everyday activities which generate pollution. So the issue for us is a very special one. We have to reconcile the existence of the Calanque Massif, which is protected but which needs to be enhanced. At the same time, we have to ensure smooth coexistence with the urban fringe of Marseille, and that's an extremely important issue for the whole of the conurbation. It's going to bring back the fish. The fish are going to come out of the no-fishing areas, so that's going to help us later on. We're going to be able to work better. The only problem is the present time. We're going to have to learn how to cope with this. We're not quite sure what's going to happen. We're not sure how to manage this. The idea is to manage both protection and territorial enhancement. That's the issue at stake. And I think that it's this that has led to the success of the park. Everybody has understood that there's a lot to gain on both sides.
The agency which is organizing this Congress together with IUCN is an entity designed to manage and protect the marine environment and manage marine parks. We help the management boards to implement their policy, and we also assist in the actual functioning, development and management of other categories of marine protected areas. We're involved both in France and in the overseas territories. Our message at the agency is that we're trying to protect the oceans, but we're doing so in conjunction with users and in light of human activities, and one of our goals is to develop these marine parks. In Corsica, we decided 2 years ago to create other marine protected areas around Corsica in accordance with a specific strategy unanimously voted in by the Corsican Assembly. By 2020, we will be protecting 50% of the Corsican territorial waters. In other words, Corsican politicians are deeply involved in the creation of marine protected areas. The potential in Corsica is huge. There are a lot of areas which are well preserved. Our goal, therefore, is to orchestrate all this very quickly so that we can work towards a sustainable development of activities within a system that protects up to 15% of our territory. One of our major missions is to be a hub for collecting data and knowledge with a view to identifying and creating marine protected areas. We are also a technical hub when it comes to managing these marine protected areas. We assist in terms of implementing action, stewardship, and we have recently become the reference for the National Ministry for the Environment. We manage Natura 2000 areas together with, obviously, all those involved. The idea is to uphold the conservation of marine environments. I'm referring to both habitat and species that live there. That is what guides us in our daily work within the hub and in terms of our interaction with the various stakeholders.